Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all doing well. If you are new, thanks for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am doing the first book haul revisit of 2022. The book haul revisits are when I take a look back at the hauls that I did a year ago. At this point, I only have a year ago to look back on. And I go through those books to see whether or not I've read any. Hopefully I have, and if any of the books that I hauled are even still on my radar, and if there are any books that have kind of been forgotten, because of the newer, shinier books. So let's get started. I don't go into great depth with these books, since I would have done that already if I read them. I would have done that when I did a wrap-up, or with the original hauls I already talk about them. But it's a great reminder of what was great and what is still to come. So I hauled probably about 20 some books in January of 2021, and I've only read 4 of them, so not great, but better than 0. And the good news is that 8 of these are still on my radar, and there are still plenty that I had kind of forgotten about. So we will take a look at all of those. I was able to grab most of these from the mini piles, as you know I have, but the ones that I'm missing, I will put pictures of them up. So first is 77 Fragments of a Familiar Ruin by Thomas King. This is an amazing poetry collection. I highlighted it when I did 10 Canadian poetry collections a year ago, I think it was. And Thomas King is one of my favorite writers, and he just has a way of punching you in the gut with serious topics, usually regarding Indigenous people, but he also makes you laugh at the same time, and I am constantly in awe of his ability to do that. The next book I read was The Book Charmer by Hawkins. And this book was just charming. It's the first in a series, and I haven't read the next book in the series, but I would, because this was just a delightful read. The main character, Sarah, is a librarian and in a little community of Dove Pond, and Sarah and her sisters all have special gifts. And Sarah's gift is that she knows what books, people need and when. So the townspeople they've come to accept that if Sarah recommends a book, then, they should read it and it will help them out. But when some new people come to town, they're apprehensive about all of this. But through Sarah and the people in the town and the community, they find healing, and it's a really sweet story. The third book I read was Your Story, My Story by Connie Palman, and this is translated by Eileen Stevens and Anna Asbury. And this is a historical fiction novel based on the lives of Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath. And it's told from the perspective of Ted Hughes, which I thought was brilliant, and it gives an entirely new perspective of who Sylvia Plath was, her mental health, her writing career, and their marriage. And it's just also an interesting glimpse into who Ted Hughes is as well. So if you were a fan of either Sylvia Plath or Ted Hughes, then I would highly recommend this one. And the last book that I've read from this haul is Small Silent Things by Robin Page, which, if I remember correctly, I read for my Kwibuka Reads series during the 100 Days of Mourning and Remembering the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda. This book is a fictional story about 2 neighbors, Jocelyn, who is a married woman with a little girl named Lucy, and Simon is a landscape architect, and he's also a Rwandan refugee. And both Jocelyn and Simon have experienced great trauma in their lives, and they become friends. And what I remember liking most about the story was that it didn't shy away from that theme, and especially with, Simon's story. And I also liked how the little girl, Lucy, she kind of brings everyone together. And Jocelyn's backstory was okay, but her storyline felt very planned instead of just flowing. Overall, I remember liking the book. So those are the 4 books that I read. As I said, there are many books that are still on my radar that I hope to read soon, whatever soon is. And the first of those is Miss Benson's Beetle by Rachel Joyce. I am still interested in this book, and I've heard good things about it. I'm interested in it because it's an adventure story, and it's a book about friendship. The story takes place in 1950 when Marjorie Benson decides to quit her job, and she travels to New Caledonia to find a golden beetle. And then next is The Lost Girls by Robert Kolker. And this book first got my attention when I read Hidden Valley Road by Robert Kolker, and I enjoyed that so much that I picked this up. And Lost Girls is another true story. This one is about a serial killer on Long Island, and it's about a world that I know nothing about. And that's the online world of escorts. And if I remember correctly, this is still an unsolved mystery. Up next is Parakeet by Marie Helen Bertino. And I talked about this not too long ago because it was on one of my mini shelf tours. And this is about a bride who, a week before her wedding, she's visited by her dead grandmother in the form of a parakeet, and she tells her not to go through with the wedding. So I just think that this one sounds like it will be very entertaining. Bellevue Square by Michael Redhill is still high on my TBR list. Michael Redhill is a Canadian author, and I'm pretty sure that Bellevue Square was a Giller Prize winner not too long ago. The concept of this thriller is very intriguing to me. Jean Mason is the protagonist of the story, and she's told that she has a doppelganger, which is someone who, looks like you. We're all supposed to have one. And Jean tries to find the person, and her curiosity becomes an obsession. Another book, and really author, that is still high on my list to read is Let the Great World Spin by Colum McCann. So this is about a man walking on a tightrope between the World Trade Center in New York City in 1974. And it gives various perspectives of people's experience of that. And again, a book that I've heard really good things about, so I'm looking forward to reading that. I will get to it. Eventide by Therese Bohman, and this is translated by Marlaine Delargy. It has a lot of themes that I'm really interested in. The main character is Carolina Anderson, and she's an art professor at Stockholm University, and she's recently ended a relationship. And the themes in this novel are art, love, and solitude, and the distorted standards women are held to in relationships and careers. This next book, I forget how I originally heard about this, but it's Long Live the Tribe of Fatherless Girls by T. Kirra Madden. And this is a memoir. It's a coming-of-age story about a queer, biracial teenager in Florida. And then the last book that is still on my radar category is The Dragons, the Giant, the Women by Wayetu Moore. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I believe I learned about this book on BookTube. This is another memoir that tells the story of Wayetu and her family, the war in Liberia, and how they survive and how they adjust to a new culture and living in the US. So again, this is a book that I've heard really good things about. So now we are going to look at the books that I hauled that I kind of forgot about. The first book is a book I really do want to read, but I totally forgot that I even had it, and that is a A Dream About Lightning Bugs, A Life of Music and Cheap Lessons by Ben Folds. So this is a memoir about Ben Folds and his music career. I had seen a documentary or an interview about him, which was very interesting, and they mentioned this memoir, so I picked it up, and that's as far as it got. So I'm glad that I, now have it on my radar again. The next, I think, 5 books fell off my radar, and I think mostly because they were given to me, and I may not have picked up these books on my own. The first is Song of a Captive Bird by Jasmin Darznik. This has a beautiful cover, and it totally sounds like something that I would read. The story is inspired by the poet, I think it's Farrokhzad. I'm not sure how to say it. I have never heard of this poet except through this book. She grew up in Tehran, being told that she should be quiet and modest. And in 1950, she runs away from her forced marriage and finds a way to live by her own rules. So it's totally something that I would read. Next is The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. I read 1 or 2 other books by Diane Chamberlain, and I totally didn't remember this book. But it does have an interesting theme, which is birth defects and what we do or don't do before the child is born. Little Big Love by Katie Regan is the next in the pile, and nothing about this sounds riveting to me, but you never know, so I'm willing to give it a try. Juliet's husband Liam leaves her and their 10-year-old son Zach, and it's Zach who decides that he's going to find his father. So depending on how that is all fleshed out, it might be okay. Next is an author that I am totally aware of, but I forgot about having this book, and it is The Girl You Left Behind by Jojo Moyes. I've read other Jojo Moyes novels, and I have some on my radar, but this one, I don't know, I got left behind, I guess. The story takes place in Paris during World War I, and 2 women living almost a century apart are connected by a portrait. So again, this could be good, and I do like Jojo Moyes' her writing. Another book that got lost in the mix of things is The Lost Love Song by Minnie Dark, and this is about a concert pianist named Diana. She has written a piece for her fiance, but when tragedy strikes, the song lives on and touches the lives of, people from all around the world. So this is a bit of a romance, and it sounds sad, but it could be a beautiful story. And next up is The Chanel Sisters by Judith Little. This is a historical fiction novel about Coco Chanel and her sister. And I don't really know about Coco Chanel at all, other than the perfume. So this will be interesting to learn more. And then Chocolates for Breakfast by Pamela Moore. I literally remember picking this up because it had chocolate on the cover, and I love chocolate. But the book has some interesting history behind it. It was originally published in the 1950s, and it's a coming-of-age story about 15-year-old Courtney, who splits her time between Manhattan and LA. And sadly, Pamela Moore, the author, died by suicide in 1964 at the age of 26. So her son, with the help of author Emma Straub, were able to get this published again. And finally, Brooklyn Girls by Gemma Burgess. I don't know where this is. I thought I had it. Again, I don't remember when or how I got this book, but it's the first in a series, and it's set in New York City. So, that's usually enough for me to pick up a book. This book focuses on Pia, who is unemployed and has no money. She decides to start a food truck business, and it's about friendships and survival as a young, 20-something in Brooklyn. So those are the books for my January 2021 haul. Obviously, I still have some reading and catching up to do. Hopefully, I will be able to get to at least some of these this year. Let me know, have you read any of these books? What are your thoughts? Are there, especially if there's any of the books that I haven't read, are there any that you think I should start with, any that you've enjoyed? I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.